Today for sorting it out, I had a couple things on my mind. Obviously there's a lot in the world going on. I think somebody recently described 2020 as Jumanji, which I think is pretty funny. Have any of you seen the movie Jumanji? Or as I learned last night while I was getting ready for today, it is actually a children's book. The basic premise of the storyline is that these kids who are pretty bored, or in one version, they're actually in detention, they come across this old game and they decide to play it. So obviously they're bored enough to play this old game they find in the attic or while they're cleaning out the storage closet at school. And it seems innocent enough. It's an old game, pretty low tech, and everything seems fine and pretty boring until they actually start playing. And then the game sort of takes on a mind of its own, or a life of its own. And the whole goal, through all these dangerous, mysterious adventures that they go on, they're trying to save Jumanji. And the reason they want to save it so badly, despite all the dangers, is because that is their only way out. Their only way to leave the game is to save Jumanji. It's a movie about teamwork, about finding your strengths and weaknesses and compromise. All sorts of good stuff. But I'm wondering if any of you are feeling like your life lately has sort of taken over. It hasn't gotten your consent. It's not going as planned. It just feels super out of control. Your anxiety going through the roof, feeling overwhelmed, anxious, out of control. Not a good feeling. Well, today we've got an activity that might help sort that out. I posted a video earlier this morning of a guy doing some plate spinning. I don't know if any of you remember seeing that on the Ed Sullivan Show or on a circus. It was one of my favorite acts. I watched it on Sesame Street or Mr. Rogers or something like that. Anyway, it starts out really slow, pretty boring. This guy is spinning plates one at a time. He spins a plate, puts it on this pole, and he strolls around and he adds another plate to another pole. And he's got plenty of time. He gives the pole a shake if one's starting to get a little slow or starting to wobble. And then it picks up speed. Every plate he adds, he has to walk a little faster. And pretty soon, as you're watching, you're totally starting to get engaged. And you're yelling, hurry, the plate on the left, hurry, hurry, 3 plates to the right. You gotta get going, the one behind you, it's wobbling. And he's sprinting. And you're on the edge of your seat, or you're standing up. The tension inside your body's rising. And then the unthinkable happens. The thing he's been trying the whole show to avoid. A plate crashes. Now the logical side of your brain's going, well, he's got one less to worry about. Now he can go take care of the other ones and slow down a little bit. But that's not actually what happens. It has thrown his whole rhythm off. And pretty soon, all the plates are crashing. That video, quite entertaining. But as it stands for today with the sorting it out, I bet you can relate. I bet some of you feel like you've got about 12 plates, maybe 50 plates spinning up on those poles, and then you're trying to do all these other activities on the ground. Well, that is what we are aiming today to sort out, to reduce the anxiety that's going on. You'll notice that my graphic for today's activity is a puzzle, a big heap of puzzle pieces, and you're not sure how you're going to sort it out, how you're going to get that puzzle together. One thing I was thinking that people could grab, if you had one handy, is random puzzle pieces. An old puzzle. This paper here actually made me laugh today as I was flipping through some different papers, because it's got all these different gummy bears on it. And I don't know if any of you eat candy like I do, but I tend to sort them out and then take one red, one yellow, one green. Other supplies you might want to grab. Any kind of paper will do. Construction paper, plain paper, pattern paper as long as you can write on it. Scissors, fancy washi tape, or double stick tape. You could grab glue. You could grab Post-it notes, stickers. Different papers. I have a collection of pattern papers. I really have enjoyed using them for different projects. Sometimes they come in different size things already cut up, but then you could also cut up different shapes as well. And again, I've got some stickers, words, letters, numbers, handy bag of art supplies, markers, colored pencils, crayons, crayons. Sky's the limit. Grab what you have on hand. Grab what you're comfortable grabbing. This whole project can be done as simple as using a pen or a pencil and a plain sheet of paper. Clear off a space just so you got some space to work. And the first step today is going to be writing it down. You want to think through all of this stuff that you've got going on in your life, the stressors, the events, the schedules, the to-do list that's been piling up. And You're gonna, for every single thing that you think of, I want you to write it down. Perhaps you want to just start by writing the list. Let's see, some things on my list. Work notes. The reason I was a little late today, internet connection. I don't know if anybody's been tied up in watching the news, but current events would be another thing to think about. Relationships. Perhaps getting in shape is on your list. Maybe calling grandma. Training the dogs, maybe that's on your list. This is going to be your own personal list, and anything goes. Laundry. Reducing physical pain. That never-ending to-do list of projects. So maybe you've got classes to take, bills to pay, art to make. You sleep on anybody's list? Being kind? Anything that stresses you out or you feel responsible for, I want you to put that down on here. For some people, the weather is a huge stressor. They think about it, they watch the Weather Channel, they try to prepare for it. I don't want you to stress. I just want you to, off the top of your head, write the list as big as you can write it. You can always go back and add something later. Like right now, I had something that I wanted to write on, and for the life of me, right this second, I can't remember it. The next thing is you're going to want to grab your paper that you want to use. And today, I think I'm just going to use this as my piece of paper. I'm not actually going to glue anything down, but I encourage you to use a separate sheet of paper, and you're going to draw a circle. So today, like I said, just for visual sake, I'm going to use my table as my paper, and this will be my circle. I'm actually going to use a square. And the whole point in this next piece, which is very simple, is you're grabbing your paper and you're going to draw some kind of a shape. Square, circle, oval, anything that completes on itself so that you have an inner part and an outer part. You could also trace your hand on some paper, and then you're going to take that list that you made. Oh, I just realized that was on really pretty paper on the outside. And you can cut it apart. The whole goal here is that each thing that you wrote out is going to have its own piece of paper. If you don't feel like cutting, tear them. And you'll notice as you tear, if you like a little artsy creative point, the piece that you tear towards you will leave some white on the piece that's holding still. So if I wanted calling grandma to have some white border, then I would pull this side up towards me and get that fun, I don't know, just a little artsy trick. All right, so once you get all of that out, and again, you can write it out, cut them out, tear them out. The other thing you could do is grab different pieces of paper to represent each item. So say you want to do more reading that's on your list. Well, maybe you grab a piece of paper that looks like writing. So it looks kind of like a book. Tear that out. Maybe you like having each piece look really nice. Post-it notes are just so helpful and fun to use for this. Or you grab other pieces of paper. Maybe for something on your list that's really small, you grab a small piece of paper, and something that's bigger, more important to you, you grab a bigger piece of paper. So just for demonstration's sake, I'm going to use this for the books that I have in a pile that I want to read. I am going to grab and cut out this circle with the dog print, and I am not an awesome cutter-outer. My mom is very good at cutting right on the line. But again, art therapy is not about perfection. It's not about creating a masterpiece to hang in a museum or a gallery. You don't even have to show anybody your art therapy pieces. They are for you. They are meant to resonate with you. So on your piece of paper that you have drawn a circle or created some kind of inner outer space, you're going to want to label it somehow. It could be labeled as simple as out. This is where I'm going to put the things that are out of my control. And obviously, if I was doing this on paper, I would not be cutting these out. I'd just be taking the stickers out. I am going to write mine. Things in this box are mine to control. They are my responsibility. It's up to me whether they get done or not, and how I respond, and what I do with them. And the things over here outside my box, those things are not in my control, at least not fully. Now, some of you might be like, well, can't you have a middle ground? Well, sure, you can have a middle ground. Maybe we'll put this here. I'm going to put yellow. So green is mine to control. Yellow might be things that are kind of in the middle here. Maybe there's some things that I partially control. And then the things out here, they're just simply not things that I can control. So things that are out of my control, the weather, not in my control. I cannot control if it rains or storms. But what I can control with the weather is I could put an umbrella in the car. I could put boots too, you know, the snow in the winter. Boots and umbrella in the car. That I could 100% control. If my dogs are really rambunctious and I'm like, oh my gosh, if my dogs would just behave. Can anyone relate? Definitely one of my dilemmas, one of my stress points in life. Well, honestly, that one's in my control, isn't it? That's gotta go in here because I could be more intentional about the time I take to train them. Calling grandma. That one would be mostly, you know what, I'm gonna have that one bridge over here. Calling grandma would be a both. It would bridge this gap, wouldn't it? Because my responsibility in fostering that relationship would be to call her. And the other side of it that isn't in my control is if she's available to talk, if she's not busy or not. So that one might be kind of in this middle area. My stack of books, my never-ending stack of books, well, that would be my control, right? I'm going to throw the books in here. I can control how many books I buy or don't buy so that the stack stops growing. That might be one thing I could do. Making time, foregoing a TV show or something and sitting down to read the book that I said I really wanted to read. Those would be things that I could control. Let's see, other things that would be out of my control, maybe a really good one. I'm kind of glad that I'm tearing it because it just seems to fit the current events. Can I do anything about these current events? Nope. I am not actually part of it. I can't control what gets covered on the news. I can't control what people do on the news. I can't control who's interviewed. Totally on the outside of my control. So there's a couple hints, couple examples of how to kind of sort things. One good question when you pull up your items that you've listed out here is to ask yourself, what would happen if you did nothing? Would that problem be resolved? Would that relationship grow? Would it get worse? And the answer is no, that your silence, that your inactivity does nothing, has no impact on it. Well, it's a pretty good indication. It goes in the out of control side of things. If it would tumble and fall to the ground and be totally destroyed if you did nothing, probably goes in the under my control spot. If you get to one that has you stuck, set it aside for a minute. Make the easy decisions first and come back to that pile a little bit later so that you can ask some more questions about it. And some of them might fall in the middle here where some of it's yours, some of it's not your control. And you might want to take one of these and divide it in two so you can be very clear about what is your control in the situation and what is not in your control in a situation. All right, so once you have sorted all of these stressors, all of these things that are weighing on you, demanding your time, once you've sorted them, you've basically done the bulk of the work. And a question to ask yourself is, how do you feel now? What was that like to write down your original list? Remember writing it all down? This was just a real quick list. My list is much bigger. I'm assuming yours is much bigger. What did it feel like to see all of those items in one place? Was it overwhelming? Was it kind of a relief to see it all written out and get it out of your system? What was it like to cut them all apart? And then to grab them one at a time and decide which side they go on. That's the big work of today. And I'm hoping that just sorting it out gives you a little bit of a sense of relief. Now you know what's yours and what's not. And if you did it like me, and you can move all of this stuff out, and you can focus just on this part, well, suddenly your list just got a little bit smaller. Hopefully that starts to reduce even more pressure, anxiety, overwhelm. Now to really put this into action for the week is I want you to glance real quick. Where does your eye fall first? What's the first thing inside the circle, inside your realm of control, that your eye lands on first? This is probably going to be like the most important part, the most pressing item. For me right now, maybe it's the shape or the color, but this one pops out first for me. So right now, I'm going to slide these out of the way, and I'm going to narrow my focus to one item. Now remember that huge list? Look at how tiny it is right now. I have one item on my list. I'm going to narrow it even further. What is one thing that I could do today or this week to really focus, to really make an impact on this one thing? You guys have any examples of what you could do for your one thing? Please let us know. It would be a great encouragement to other people to hear what your one step for today or for this week is. I think for mine, my one step is to spend, no, maybe I don't even want to box myself into that. I was going to say spend 5 minutes every day teaching my dog a new trick. But I think my one thing, if I break it down even further, my one thing that I am going to focus on this week for this one item on my list of things that I have complete control over. I can't control all of their behavior, but I can be more intentional when I'm taking them for a walk about giving them commands and making sure I carry treats in my pocket to reward them for good behavior. So that I am, without really spending much more energy, I'm actually making progress on reducing the stress load of this item on my in control. Now, yeah, you're like, oh, but I have all those books to read and I need to call grandma, I need to do the laundry, and there might be a storm coming, and oh my, did you hear the latest thing? All of these things keep coming back at you, wanting to overwhelm you. But you know what you tell all of them? Not right now. I'm busy focusing on this one thing. I'll deal with all of you a little bit later. Go, take a time out. All right. So I'd love to hear from all of you. What is your one thing for the day, for the week that you are going to really focus on? And let me know. Does that reduce some of your stress? Does that help kind of prioritize? Which reminds me, prioritizing could be another use for this activity, and we'll probably do a whole nother art project on prioritizing. But this activity can be helpful in prioritizing things, what's super important to you, what's not actually that important, what could you delegate. You can use this activity when you are encountering something new or somebody else is asking you to do something. You can say, do I really want to take it on? Anyway, I'm not intending to overwhelm you or add to your stressors. Today was all about sorting it out. So if you wrote out your list, you created an in control section and out of control section. You sorted your list into those two places, and then you narrowed it down even further to your one thing and broke that down even further into one small activity that you can do today and this week to help reduce the stress, to help make progress on this one thing. So in the notes section here of Hope and Healing at Home on Facebook, I will have some more reflection questions, and I will have a write-out of today's activity as well. Thank you for watching. I hope you guys do well today and are able to enjoy the weather and not feel so overwhelmed by all the things on your to-do list.